Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to you all. You are welcome to the second round of implementation of OBE at level 1 seminar. We again apologize that on 23rd, we did not have room to accommodate more than 100 participants. Today, by the grace of God, we will do better. I think we'll be able to accommodate about 1,000 participants. Some of you who wanted to connect the other time could not, and you could not hear the presentation of Engineer Professor Jibril El Yakubu. He will start out with us for just about 10 minutes today. Thereafter, I will take my 2 topics, which I could not take the other time. So please bear with us. We will now ask Professor El Yakubu to summarize the presentation he made on 23rd, and then I will follow up by making my presentation on my 2 subtopics. And when I make my presentation, the provision for asking questions and continual interaction hereafter will be made available to you. Thank you for joining in for this Zoom meeting this afternoon. God bless you all. So, Professor Yakubu, please, you have the floor. Use my system. Use my system.
Oh, the slide. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. We are having the continuation or repeat of the last webinar, and we have 4 topics to cover. The first one will be the PEO, Program Education Objectives. The second one is the program outcomes. Number 3 is the CLO, course learning outcomes. And number 4 will be the course plan. So we are going to okay. As you can see on the screen, we are essentially repeating the same week. We start with the outline of the webinar. As I said earlier, produce. And then we look at the, number of students. In addition to number of students, what is the level of knowledge in terms of knowledge knowledge? This is what is called PO. At the time of graduation, what can we show? At the time of graduation, what can we show? And skill and attitude knowledge. That is the time we say and communication. That is the time we say communication. Please keep in mind, this is the short-term objective. So please keep in mind, this is the short-term objective. And then we have long-term objective. And then we have long-term objective. 3 to 5 years after graduation. 3 to 5 years after graduation. What can our graduate demonstrate? What are the key requirements for outcome? What is the key requirement? We have to define outcome. What do we expect? We have to define graduate. What do we expect? As you can see from the slide, PO, there are key for you to define your PO. That there are key stakeholders. So that is no longer having it's no longer having a program of isolation as a dean. You must interact with stakeholders as a dean. And here we give, you must interact with stakeholders, employers. And here we give very important stakeholders, employers, because they are going to help you to tell you what they expect. Because they are going to help you to tell you what they expect. Department, you have a very important to tell you what to expect. Very important. Then you have to tell you what to expect. For example, and then you have for example, by clearly consider by clearly consider clearly in the current approach OBE and the other approach OBE. The next slide, other approach. Summarize the 10 criteria. Summarize the 10 criteria are going to be used. That accreditation process by Korean are going to be used. Accreditation process by Korean. Keep this in mind. We don't have time to go into details. So please, but this I clearly new of details. But this I clearly new of now there are 10. And each of them, now there are 10, must be substantially met. Must be substantially met by the program. There's no each of them must be achievement substantially covered. Each of them must be, and as you can see, number one is, as mentioned earlier, as you can see, the PO. Number one is, as mentioned earlier, objective is the PO. Number two is the education objective, program outcome. Number two is the PO. Summarize them now. Outcome. Subsequently, our chairman now going to be talking about subsequently our chairman is going to be talking about CLO, and then number 4 will be discussed at another, and then number 4 will be talking about the curriculum learning process. What are they talking about the curriculum learning process, OBE, when it comes to the, and then the students, how you admit them, etc. And then the students, importantly, there is something we call CQI. Importantly, there is something we call CQI improvement. Continuous for the first time in the history of accreditation. In fact, for the first time, Corena is asking each program to show. Corena is asking continuous program to show. Prove your own process. How do you continuously? Yeah, then you have stabbing, then you have physical facilities, yeah, then you have stabbing, then you have physical linkages, then you have institutional linkages. The last one are institutional support and bonding. And the last one, as you can see, they are all wrapped together. They are all important. As you can see, they are all wrapped together. They are all important. Number 1, 2, and 3. The key objective. Now, if you look at the next slide, now, if you look at the, we are now giving more detail. We are now giving more detail I'll not take time on the PO. Just to remind you that take time on this. Just to remind you that PO are what you supposed to display in the marketplace. Exhibit when they are employed 3 to 5 years after graduating. When they are employed 3 to 5 years after graduating. I mentioned to you earlier that to get PO, and I mentioned to you earlier that to get PO. So here I have just given you stakeholders. So here I have just given you example. Alumni, number one, important stakeholders. Alumni. So you need to contact them and somehow give you input. So you need to contact them and somehow give you there's no problem. But if you have an old new program, fine, there's no problem. But if you have an old program, because they are key stakeholders, they know what is in the department. Key stakeholders, they know what is in the department. The department. They have really know what is taking place in the marketplace. Department. They know what can help you in the marketplace. I will not take much time on this, so they can help you. And then number 2, I will not take much time on this, which is another very important new requirement from Korean. Which is another very important new requirement from Korean. You don't have to engage employers. What they expect. Somehow they tell you what they expect, whatever, from graduate of mechanical, from civil, whatever, is trying to meet what industry is to meet, what industry is expecting from you. Is expecting from you. There's some issue of network. I don't know whether you can see my slide. There is some issue of network. Okay. I don't know whether you can see my slide. As you can see, okay, we have senior. As you can see, interview. In this case, we have senior exit interview. Somehow in this case, we are marketplace. You talk to them. What do you expect? They are aware about the marketplace. What you talk to them about what do you expect? What do you feel like what we are doing about now objective for the market? You feel like what we are doing and then now is good for the market. Another important point. This is number 4. And then another important point. This is number 4. Is what we call industry advisory board, or which you call industry advisory mediate between the program and call industry advisory mediate. Please keep this in mind, very important. Please keep this in mind, very important. Next is the curriculum committee. Next which is at the departmental level. This is where we have the faculty departmental level, teaching staff. This is where we have the faculty even non-teaching staff, giving you the ideas about what we do to improve our students' capacity in the industry. So this is summary. As you can see, as I said earlier, we have about 9 stakeholders, but here I'm giving you an example of only 5 because we don't have time. And we will also have the schedule just to help you that how often do we do that in case you would like to be guided. So it's very important because we don't have time. This is the to be guided. So it's very important. How often, but this is the how often. So this is all about the PEOs. So this is all again, I will not take time because we have to finish PEOs soon. Again, I will not take time. Important point is in case you have a question soon. I have given you an important point is in case you have a question, typical program. I have given you example of PEO from a typical program. This is from civil engineering. As you can see, look at the this program, civil engineering, as you can see, look at the sufficient knowledge. This program, civil engineering, sufficient knowledge. Number 2 is to produce graduates. Number 2, who are sensitive, is to produce graduates. Responsive, who are sensitive towards the society, and responsive culture and environment towards the society. So it can see this culture and environment because it summarizes this idea about sustainability, about the environment, etc. So again, I will not take time on this. Next slide shows the key question we ask you when it comes to the accreditation. And it's very important. Go ahead. I cannot see slide. Okay. Sorry for the short delay. As you can see, we are trying to help you from Korean just to give you an idea. Typically for accreditation, we have here about 8 questions that you keep in mind. You have to demonstrate how these POs have been formulated and determined. Keep a file, show evidences. I will not go into details. Number 2, This must be consistent with your institutional vision and mission, because your program is under some institution. So there must be no conflict between your PO and the university mission. And then how do you review and update these POs? And then who are your stakeholders and how have they been involved? So all this, we will ask you a question on this during accreditation, and you must actually show evidences, files and interviews and questionnaires that will help you really to show that yes, you have followed the process. Point number 2 is PO, which you call the program outcome. And as we said earlier, these are the attributes in terms of knowledge, skill, and behavior that your graduate must demonstrate. Unfortunately for us, we have adapted these POs from Washington Accord. Recently, Korean has been working on joining Washington Accord, and these are all encompassing. If you look at this 12, there's nothing that is missing. But in case you have a special requirement, Korean allows you to even add number 13. So we have 12 POs. But if there's anything missing, you can add number 13, number 14, that's no problem. But here they are, as we said, we adopted them from WA, as you can see in the next slide. And without taking time, you can see the number 12 of them. Number 1 is engineering knowledge. So a graduate of engineering program to be accredited by Korean is expected to have ability to, number 1, apply knowledge of mathematics, sciences, engineering fundamentals, and engineering specialization to solve complex engineering problems. So here are the key terms. You should apply sciences and mathematics, but in solution of what we call complex engineering problems. Subsequently, in the subsequent seminars or webinars, we are going to explain what do we expect in terms of complex engineering problems. What are the attributes? Okay. The second point is problem analysis. So when you have a graduate from the program, at the time of graduation, you should be able to identify, formulate, research literature, and analyze complex engineering problem. Again, you can see we are repeating the same complex engineering problem. So as I said earlier, we are going to have a time to be looking at example of complex engineering problems so that we can all be on the same page. I will not go into detail reading one by one. Number 3 is design. We all know that as engineers, we should be able to design whatever you design. As you can see inside, we said design a system, a component, a process, depending on their field. You can design a very simple composite material, you can design a refinery, you can design automobile, depending on, you can design a bridge, etc. Number 4 is investigation. Number 5 is ability to use modern tools. And for every field of engineering, there are modern tools that we should be able to apply. Number 6 is engineering society. The engineer must reflect his understanding societal of his design and project. Number 7 is environment and sustainability. Number 8 is ethics. We must keep in mind code of conduct for engineers. Number 9 is and teamwork. Individual and teamwork. The graduate must be able to work. The graduate must be able to work as a team. And very important because these we have multi-cultural team across culture. Our graduate must be able to work as online, virtually. Number 10 is communication. Again, is very important. Because these days communication is very important. Communication is very important. Understanding the other party, etc. Project management. Last one is lifelong learning. All these are adapted Washington Accord. WA. And as I said earlier, if there's anything that you believe your program number 13, you can add number 13. For them will help you. No problem. For them will help you to adjust the next level. Into the next level. So when we come for accreditation, we have key questions. We have here. I have example of some of them. Here I have example of some of them. Again, I will not go into details. Again, I will have to show. But you have to show you're able to determine how you determine this outcome, and how you have process them in the teaching and learning process. You have to show that is there any process then review every semester or every year, And then you have to show how you are stakeholders are aware about this outcome. Your students, alumni, teaching staff, your teaching staff. etc. Now, to summarize my story, we have shown the importance. Of PO. This is I've repeated this term, so it's imprinted into our mind. Imprinted program. Program. Objective. This is the most important objective. That's the most important student that graduate should be doing. Or the graduate should be doing 3 to 5 years after graduation. 3 to 5 years after graduation. And then we have the POs, that is program outcome, attribute in terms of knowledge, and attitude that the graduate should be able to at the time of graduation. At the time of graduation, they are worthy in character learning. That's learning in terms of POs. Number 3 is the CLO. That is open subject completion. As soon as you finish the objectives that you have achieved. And then we have, for example, weekly topics. That we have break down. Make sure that we achieve our CLO. As you can see, the arrow is going from top to bottom. You can go from bottom to top. Whatever you are expecting to do in the marketplace, to what they are doing is linked to what they are doing. So this is very important. So this is very important. We have long-term objective. We have long-term objective. We have short-term immediate objective. And you have immediate objective. The long-term we call them POs. And the immediate, the class we call them. But of course, we are aware there are some challenges. So we need to really, that for OBE, we need to have assessment. We need to have an assessment. The student must have feedback. Because the student must have feedback. And then there must be timely release of results. Unlike in the old practice whereby you see a result at the end of the semester. For OBE, we expect every week or every 2 weeks, the student should know what is the status in terms of feedback. We know that it will take too much time from the staff, but really the learning can only take place when the student get feedback. When there is no feedback, they will not understand what is going on. And therefore, to address this issue, Korea has been working on capacity building. There has been a series of workshops, and even this webinar is part of the workshop to improve the the teachers' capacity so that they can properly implement the OBE. Now, if you look at this last diagram, I like this one very much because it shows pictorially what doing by all these objectives. As you can see, the PEO we are talking about is having direct link to POs, as you can see, and these POs are having direct link to CLOs. So they are all wrapped up together. Whatever you achieve in the CLO is what you are going to demonstrate at time of graduation. These are the indications of what the student will be doing once they go to the workplace. So essentially, this is a summary of the 3 key requirement criteria: number 1, number 2, and number 3. And I would just like to remind my colleagues, already Korea has decided from last May, all programs in the country must implement OBE. You can do that at different level, but you must start OBE. There's nobody to be left behind because as you can see, there's no going back. Because OBE is the best way really to make sure that engineers can engineer. They can solve complex engineering problems at our level. Gradually, we can keep on improving. Thank you very much for your time. The next will be presentation on CLO and course file by our ESC chairman. And we will address questions and concerns at the end of the presentation. And thank you very much for your time. Next, please, we listen to our chairman. Why is the how do I talk to MIS?
Where is this loading? Where is this slide?
You finish this one. Where is the next one?
They're talking with him already. They're talking with him. Prof, somebody is already on phone.
We try it.
I've been unmuted. I've been unmuted on my phone. Let me use my phone. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you are all hearing me very well. We want to improve on the problem of echo that was mentioned in the earlier presentation. The topic is implementation of OBE at level 1. And that is my name there, Engineer Professor G. Olorumaye, Chairman, Engineering Acquisition Committee. The outline of this presentation, we have introductory comments. We need to overcome inertia. Lecturers, I want to motivate you a little bit. Then what do we do to manage time for this webinar? Then how do we include POs, CLOs in self-study reports? Then the role of OBE desk officers will be addressed briefly. Then the place of Director of Academic Planning in OBE will be discussed briefly. Then the importance of practicing license for engineering personnel or engineering practitioners. Then when we say level 1 OBE, what are we talking about? Level 2 OBE. Then we want to relate OBE to CCMAS. Then we will move on to formulation of course learning outcomes. Then we will discuss creation and maintenance of course files. These are the grants we want to cover very quickly. The introductory comments now. Current has been conducting seminars and webinars and workshops on outcome-based education and on outcome-based assessments. We are on slide 3 now. We are on slide 3. Since 2018, it is time for us to move forward. We need to overcome this inertia. We take the first step, and then you will see that it is not as difficult as you feared it will be. Then the problem of poor motivation among lecturers due to poor condition of service and the outcome or what the last ASU strike has yielded for now. I want to encourage you to keep up high spirits. You know, in Shakespeare's play, As You Like It, a quotation from there, it's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man at his time plays many parts. Some people had their entrances, and recently they had their exits. A new set of people have now had their entrances. Let us hope that the new set of people that had their entrances recently will relate better with us as university lecturers. So I want to encourage you putting your best in your work for the sake of our future generations. Our young people that we are training now, they are our future. So let's make necessary sacrifice to give them the best quality training, irrespective of the bad treatment that we are receiving now from those that are supposed to treat us better as lecturers. I hope you are encouraged a little bit to be ready to put in your best. We also want to remind you that Current has championed the cause of lecturers over the years, particularly on their initial placement when they start their careers. So Current will continue to do its best to enhance the welfare of engineering lecturers and other engineers as well. To help us manage time during this webinar, I want to appeal to you. Please send your comments in written form. Efforts will be made to answer all the questions you send in. Please send your questions to my email address. My email address is there on the screen, and my WhatsApp number is there on the screen. And my name is John A. Olorumaye, John Adeshiji Olorumaye. Then the issue of including PEOs, PO reports that you prepare when you are getting ready for accreditation. I want to remind you that our current accreditation manual in chapter 4 contains the guidelines on preparation of self-study form, self-study report under the OBE system, and it includes details on the issues you should address on program educational objectives, program outcomes, and course learning outcomes. So I expect that by now we all have access to current accreditation manual. So please study the chapter 4 very well, and the annexes that follow, they give us details on how these issues are to be addressed. Then the role of OBE desk officers. Current asks each university to have at least one OBE desk officer to be able to drive the implementation of OBE very well. We expect that the OBE desk officer should be a younger colleague in the career, a young lecturer, maybe at the level of lecturer 1 or senior lecturer, who is hardworking and enthusiastic about rendering service. You know, community service is one of the requirements for us to move upward now in our career. So whoever serves as OBE desk officer has an important item to put on his CV under community service. You are rendering service to the whole faculty, to your colleagues. At least one per faculty. He is expected to become an OBE guru, somebody that people will be coming to consult on OBE matters. We are looking forward in the weeks and months ahead to give special training to OBE desk officers, whether online or physical meeting kind of training, so that they will be specialists on implementation of OBE, and they will work closely with all the heads of departments in the Faculty of Engineering. They will also work closely with Engineering Accreditation Committee to help to prepare each degree program in his or her institution for accreditation. All right, the OBE desk officer may be a male or a female, but somebody who is ready to work hard and ready to render service to the faculty and to the engineering profession. We hope to create a WhatsApp platform that will include all the OBE desk officers from all Nigerian universities and chairmen of subcommittees of Engineering Accreditation Committee, so that we can be interacting from time to time. So work will be done to create this. So I want to appeal to all the deans to send in the names and the WhatsApp phone numbers of all the OBE desk officers to my number or my email, and we will collate them to form this WhatsApp platform. Then the question on the place of Director of Academic Planning in OBE. I want to remind us that OBE emphasizes the involvement of stakeholders. And there are many stakeholders that are expected to be involved in the implementation of OBE. The Director of Academic Planning is one of them. Another stakeholder is Director of Quality Assurance Unit or Manager of Quality Assurance Unit in your university. Even the Office of DVC Academic should be represented when you are formulating your PEOs. These 3 units in the university, or these 3 offices, should have representation to represent the university when you are formulating your PEOs. So Director of Academic Planning is also directly responsible for planning for accreditation visitation to your university when NUC or current or any professional body is coming. So they have an important role to play in the implementation of OBE. And we expect that the deans of engineering or deans of engineering faculties in the institution should work closely with the Director of Academic Planning, Director of Quality Assurance Unit, the Office of DVC Academic, to ensure that OBE is well implemented in your universities. Then the importance of practicing license for engineers, for engineering technologies, for engineering technicians, and for engineering craftsmen who are working in your workshop or working in your laboratories. Every registered engineer and engineering technologies, they are expected to be up to date in the payment of their annual practicing fee. And when program evaluators come for accreditation, they will ask for evidence of that all your engineering personnel are up to date in their payment. And we expect that each person who has paid should download his receipt, and a file will be created for this, and this file will be put in the evidence room so that program evaluators will be able to access this file and see evidence of those who have paid their practicing license up to date. This is very important, please. Then we talk of level 1 OBE. What do you mean by level 1 OBE? Level 1 OBE is meant for those who are not yet prepared for full implementation of OBE in their institution. Next slide now. Level 1 OBE. So, and what is demanded of you at the level 1 OBE is formulation of PEOs, program educational objectives. Then you must adopt the 11 or 12 graduate attributes of Washington Accord and just tinker with it a little to make it suitable for your own degree program. Very little tinkering is what you need to do. Where you talk of engineering, if your program is civil engineering, you can just put civil engineering there, you know. So that's why we are using the word adopting. Those graduate attributes are there and you can download them from IEA website, or even you can see it from the program, from our documents, okay? From our documents, the accreditation manual, they are there. So just tinker with it to make it suitable for your degree program and just adopt it. You don't have much work to do there. The person who spoke before me has already addressed this. Remember the involvement of stakeholders in formulating your PEOs, and we said your PEOs must match the mission, vision and mission of your institution. So we do not expect two institutions to have the same PEOs because two institutions have different visions and missions. So it should be peculiar to your institution. And we expect to see evidence of the involvement of stakeholders when you had meetings. You can have video recording of the meeting where you formulated your PEOs. You should take minutes of the meeting and have a record of all those who attended, so that when program evaluators come and they demand for evidence of stakeholder involvement in formulating your PEOs, you can show them the video, you can show them a file containing minutes of the meeting and those who attended. Then formulating CLOs is another thing demanded of level 1 OBE. Fortunately, in the recent implementation of systems, NUC has helped us a lot in gaining a lot of grants on formulating course learning outcomes. Although, as we are going to see, the course learning outcomes that NUC has encouraged you to formulate have to do with topic or weekly course learning outcomes, not the OBE course learning outcomes. You are going to see what you need to do to shrink those large number of CLOs you formulated when you are implementing systems to get the manageable number we need for the OBE. Then creating and maintaining course files. Of course, level 2 OBE, which is the advanced level, is for those who are ready for full compliance with OBE implementation. So full compliance is required. complex engineering problems, open-ended questions in laboratories. Level 2 OBE, next slide. So full compliance is required. Then you need to demonstrate tracking mechanism for your graduates to see the key performance indicators of how PEOs are being implemented, maybe through alumni survey, employer survey. Then every aspect of CQI, continuous quality improvement, industry advisory boards, etc. All those things are in OBE and some other fine, level 2 OBE and some other fine details. Then a question was raised on relating OBE to the CCMAS that NUC has asked us to implement. OBE emphasizes stakeholders' participation in its implementation. Current recognizes NUC as an important stakeholder in implementing OBE because they represent government. CCMAS is a subset of OBE, or to put it the other way, OBE is a superset of CCMAS. So if you comply with CCMAS of NUC, please don't rest on your oars. You need to step up to meet other conditions of OBE. So CCMAS is a subset of OBE. There is no conflict. It's not a matter of saying you are asked to dance reggae by CCMAS and you are asked to dance tango in OBE. No. Yes, implement CCMAS, but don't stop at implementing CCMAS. Step up and also implement OBE because OBE is a superset of CCMAS. So the important thing in OBE, what OBE emphasizes most is attainment of those graduate attributes. Those 12 Washington Accord graduate attributes. So we do not lose sleep over the courses you use to attain them. So we do not expect to see identical set of courses from one university to another. You put together the courses that will help you to attain all those 12 graduate attributes. So now we move on to course learning outcome, which is my main topic today. One of my two main topics that I'm addressing today. Course learning outcomes. For in brief, I will just refer to it as CLO, course learning outcomes. These are statements of what students will achieve in a course or what students should be able to do at one stage in the course or at the end of that particular course. And in the course learning outcome, you are also stating how their learning will be measured, how their degree of learning will be assessed. Course learning outcomes are course specific. In other words, ME 541, we have a different set of course learning outcome compared to ME 322 because they are different courses. So the course learning outcome will address the content of each course. That's why they are course specific. And the course learning outcomes will be related to one or more program outcomes. A course learning program outcome, or it may relate to maybe up to 2 or more program outcomes. There should be between 3 to 6 course learning outcomes for the purpose of implementing OBE. The number of course learning outcomes must be manageable. That is why I mentioned earlier, and I'm reminding you now, the course learning outcomes that you wrote down when we were implementing CCMAS that NUC asked us to implement, they are not the course learning outcomes we are talking of here. They are the weekly or topic course learning outcomes. They are very good. They help us to know what students should be able to know or do at the end of every topic. We now need to collapse them or aggregate them or summarize them so that you have maybe 3 or 4 course learning outcomes. Ordinarily, I would say not more than 5. 6 is beginning to be on the high side. Between 3 to 5. Okay, I've written 3 to 6 here. If you can, stay 4 or 5. You are going to see later why you need to have the number of course learning outcomes manageable. Those several learning outcomes you wrote, you must know how to combine them together so that you are going to have 3 to 5 course learning outcomes. CLOs must clearly communicate expectations to learners. Course learning outcomes, they help lecturers to plan their teaching since lecturers know where they are going. How to write course learning outcomes. Course learning outcomes must be aligned with program outcomes. So you will look at those 12 graduate attributes while writing your course learning outcome. You also look at the topics, the course content for that course. So you look at both. So you will look at those 12 graduate attributes in your POs and decide which among those 12 graduate attributes can be addressed by this particular course. Maybe the course is Mechanics of Machine 1. Which of these 12 attributes can Mechanics of Machine 1 address? Or the course Engineering Mathematics 2. Which of these 12 attributes can it address? You will look at it and also look at the many course learning outcomes you have already written when you are developing CCMAS and see how you can coalesce them to now come up with 3 to 5 course learning outcomes that will embrace all the learning outcomes you wrote earlier during your CCMAS. You are expected to use action verbs that are observable, measurable, specific, achievable. SMART is the acronym for it. That are time-bound. For example, action verbs like describe, evaluate. We are asked to avoid using verbs that are not observable, such as appreciate. You know, to say students should be aware of or should be familiar with. These are verbs that you cannot evaluate easily. So avoid verbs like appreciate, aware, familiar, know, learn, understand, because they are difficult to quantify. So use action verbs in formulating your CLOs. The next slide. You need to state the context for the behavior change and the standard to be met when you are writing your CLO. The criteria for acceptable level of performance. An example here, which is taken from page 40 of our accreditation manual. An example here is design a beam using Microsoft Excel design template based on British Standard 5950 Part 1. So that's an example, you know, from civil engineering. So if you can say design is the action word now, which is at a high level of Bloom's taxonomy. It's different from just mere recall, you know. You are able now to apply the concept and use it to design. And then you have been told Microsoft Excel, you know, based on British Standard. That's just an example. It's not all CLOs that will contain these fine details, but where it is possible, state it like that. Examples of formulation of CLOs now follow. The next slide, example 1. So the example 1 is an example of formulation of CLOs for refrigeration and air conditioning. Next slide, example 1 slide. So on the left, we have the column showing the program outcomes that are addressed by refrigeration and air conditioning. On the right, you have the CLOs. So as you can see in the table, PO2 says identify, formulate, research literature, and analyze complex engineering problems, reaching substantiated conclusion using first principles of mathematics, natural sciences, engineering sciences, with holistic consideration for sustainable development. That is PO2, program outcome 2. And the CLOs you have formulated for your refrigerator and air conditioning course are CLO1 says you must be able to, the student must be able to analyze refrigeration system based on various refrigeration cycles, maybe air compression type of cycle, vapor compression type of cycle, etc. And you can see here that we are operating at Bloom's taxonomy level C4 analysis, that the student should be able to analyze. Then CLO2, which is still addressing this PO2 in a different way, is the student must be able to explain refrigerant properties and the working of various refrigeration components, the compressor, the condenser, the evaporator, the throttle valve, and so on. You know, all those components of the refrigeration cycle. If it is a vapor compression refrigeration cycle, those of you in mechanical, you know, there's vapor absorption refrigeration cycle as well. So all the various components, the absorber, the generator, you know, the student must be able to explain how these various components of a refrigeration cycle works, and also be able to perform psychometric analysis. The student should be able to use psychometric charts, you know. This CLO is at level 3, the level of application in Bloom's taxonomy. Then the second PO that is addressed by these CLOs formulated for R&A is PO3. Design creative solutions for complex engineering problems and design systems, components, and processes to meet identified needs with appropriate consideration for public health, safety, whole life costs, net zero carbon, as well as resource, cultural, societal, and environmental consideration as required. So design creative solution. CLO3 says the student must be able to analyze air quality and calculate cooling load or heating load for a given space, also select fans and design the duct, fan and duct analysis. This is at level 5 of Bloom taxonomy, design. So you can see that this lecturer is not just interested only in students being able to remember and quote the basic thermodynamic law. It is important, but he is able to apply those principles to design refrigeration, analyze and design refrigeration systems. Another example, so you can see this particular R&A lecturer has only 3 CLOs that covers the course content and also covers 2 program outcomes. Another example, this one is for statics, one of the basic engineering courses, one of the general engineering courses. This one, the course lecturer wants to address 3 POs. The first PO he wants to address is an ability to apply knowledge of mathematics, physical sciences, and engineering sciences to civil engineering. Okay, so this person writing this is from civil engineering. The CLO1 is analyze the properties, components, resultants, and moments of a force and force system in 2 dimensions or 3-dimensional analysis. That is CLO1, and that addresses PO1. Then there is PO5 also, which he wants this course to address. This course is mapped also to PO5, an ability to recognize and formulate and solve engineering problems, civil engineering problems. The CLO that addresses this is solve equilibrium problems of various types of structures, including friction problems using analytical models, rigid bodies, free body diagrams, and equations of equilibrium. A second CLO that also addresses PO5 is solve the properties, centroid, center of gravity, moment of inertia of areas, lines, volumes, and apply these properties in equilibrium problems. Then a third program outcome that he wants the course statics to address is an ability to engage in lifelong learning and an acceptance of the need to keep current in the development of the specific field of specialization. Maybe you can say in civil engineering or in mechanical, whatever it is. This is the place where I said we tinker with this Washington Accord graduate attributes and put our own disciplines. Okay, CLO4 that addresses these program outcomes states the student should be able to apply and demonstrate the principles and tools of statics in the analysis and solution of equilibrium problems based on real-world scenario. So those are the 4 CLOs that this lecturer formulated for teaching the course statics to undergraduate students. So this is the end of the presentation for CLOs, creating and maintaining course files, which is my second topic for today. What are course files, or what is a course file? A course file is the official record showing how a course is taught by the lecturer or by the lecturers. A single course may be taught by more than one lecturer, okay? But a record of how they have documented how they taught that course when they taught it. Who creates course files? It is the primary responsibility of the head of department with the assistance of the course lecturer to create the course file, because the course file is resident in the office of the HOD. So, but populating the file now, the course lecturer must collaborate with the HOD to populate it. For example, if he gives 1 hour test, he should immediately take a copy after the test, a copy of the test to the HOD to put in that course file. So an HOD sets up a labeled file for each course, and course lecturer helps him to put contents in it from time to time during the semester. Creating and maintaining course files. Continued. The next slide. The usefulness of the course file. It is an important instrument to monitor and evaluate the effectiveness of the delivery of the course. This is an important tool that program evaluators will use when they come for accreditation. Just by opening the course file, a lot of stories being told to them. It is an important document to be put in the evidence room during the accreditation. I've been mentioning evidence room. Evidence room is the place where the program evaluators will use as their camping ground when they come for accrediting a particular program. It will have desks, chairs. It will have shelves where you will put files and you will label the shelves. Evidence of payment of practicing fee, course files, lecturers' files, student files, all kinds of files, that examples of final year project reports. You will put them on various shelves in the evidence room so that the program evaluators, when they are in the evidence room, they can be able to work on their own, although there will be people on standby to answer to them when they need things. But your evidence room must be well stocked and things must be well labeled so that the program evaluators will be able to do a lot of their work without asking questions. So course file is one of the things you will put in the evidence room. And we said there must be a file for every course taken by your students, whether it is taught by your department or is taught by another department. You must have a course file for every course taken by your students. A question was raised earlier today on course file that you should maintain. The courses that are taken by students who spill over, who are engineering students, but because they have a lot of room, they go and take course in performing art, they go and take course in music. You may not have to bother yourself in maintaining course file for that music course or performing arts course. We are talking of the normal courses that are normally expected to be taken by engineering students. Well, Faculty of Agric, by Agric engineering students, you must have a course file for it because it is one of the courses prescribed. But the courses that are just taken at random by students who spill over, you may not have to bother yourself creating course file for them. What should be contained in a course file? A course file must contain a document that is called course compact by some universities. A course compact is a write-up by the course lecturer at the beginning of the course that will state the name of the course code. The lecturer will introduce himself by writing his name. He will give his office address by stating the number on the door of his office. He will give his phone number that student can use to contact him. He will give his email address. He will also write the course contents of that course. He will also list the recommended textbooks. He will state the lecture hours according to the university timetable and the weekdays, maybe Tuesdays, 9 to 10, Friday, 8 to 9. You know, he will state all that in that write-up. He will also give days for maintenance of office hours when students can come to interact with him, what day of the week and what hours during that day of the week. He will also mention the assessment tools he will use to assess the students. Maybe, for example, he will have 2 number 1 hour tests, 1 midterm test and final exam. He will state it from the beginning. You are going to be assessing this course on 2 number 1 hour tests and final exam, or midterm tests, a number of assignments and final exam, or a number of unannounced quizzes, 1 midterm test and final exam. From the beginning, the lecturer should declare how students will be, and also the percentage that these various assessment tools we carry, the grading policy, etc. So from the beginning, students reading this write-up by the lecturer will have an idea of how he should prepare to cope with this course and be able to do well in this course. Then in the course file, you should also put the schedule of tests and final examination. This is a bit of repetition of what we are saying a course compact will give. Then the course file should contain the question papers for the quiz, for the 1 hour test, for the assignments, for the final exam. Copies of the question paper should be inside the course file. Model answers for the test, the quiz, and the assignment, the final exam should also be in the file. Also, okay, it continues. Samples of best, average, and worst answer sheets should also be included. Maybe you can do photocopy, the best performing students. Maybe in the exam, you show his answer script, the average and the worst. Don't just put only the very good student, and don't just put only the worst student, so that the program evaluator can have an idea of how the students are doing. Then record of makeup classes for any public holiday that coincides with the day of lecture. If you are unlucky as a lecturer that the day of one of your lecture is a public holiday, you have to show the evidence that you made up, you rescheduled to make up for that lecture that you missed as a result of public holiday. Then the schedule of laboratory experiments pertaining to the course. If your course has a laboratory component in its assessment, I'm not talking of laboratory courses now. Laboratory courses are different. Again, you must have a course file for laboratory courses. So, but if your course has laboratory, you must show how you schedule the laboratory and how you successfully carried out the laboratory experiments. Then CLO assessment sheet with taxonomy level and their mapping to POs. We are going to show examples on this. Lecturers course feedback form. Feedback from students concerning the lecturer should also be put here. Then at the end of the course, the lecturer should have a brief write-up and discuss with the HOD how can the teaching of this course be improved upon for next session. So the lecturer should interact with the HOD and write something brief. It doesn't have to be long. It can just be a paragraph. What did he notice was a problem in delivery of this course, or deficiency or problems in teaching this course, and how will it be improved the next time the course is taught? Whether it will be taught by the same lecturer or another lecturer does not matter. But that is implementing CQI as far as that course is concerned, continuous quality improvement. Then external examiners report, if applicable. If it is a final year course and there's an external examiner report, HOD should extract the portion of the external examiner's report relevant to that course and put the photocopy in the file. Then CLO assessment sheet table This is a work to be done by the lecturer and particularly the lecturer. CLOs, POs, level of learning table. We are going to see examples of these tables hereafter now immediately. Then weekly teaching plan table. The lecturer should give a breakdown of how he wants to cover the course content week by week. Week 1, week 2. You know, typically a semester is supposed to be 15 weeks of lecture and 2 weeks of exam. So show the things you want to, the topics you will teach in that course in those 15 weeks, just break them down. And if you also have time for, if you can also show the learning outcome for each week, you know, but that is not compulsory, but at least break down what you want to teach for each week. Then evaluation of CLOs, POs for students, the table that shows evaluation of CLOs to PO for each student. Time span that a course file should keep record of, maybe about 5 years. Although some of these documents can be bulky. You can have volume 1 of the file for ME 551, refrigeration and air conditioning. Yeah, volume 2, volume 3, you know. But somebody should be able to look at the file and see what has happened in the last 5 years. And that will help us to know whether the lecturer is repeating questions year after year. You know, we want to see that new questions are being set from year to year. So, example of CLO assessment sheet that the lecturer should do at the end. Yes, CLO assessment sheet. You can see here, you can begin to see here now why I said the number of your CLOs must be manageable. So you will have a row for each CLO. CLO number 1, CLO number 2, CLO number 3. Then, what level of learning is it addressing in Bloom taxonomy? Is it level 1, which is just mere recall, you know, and all that, you know? Or is it level 2 that is at a higher level? Or is it the highest level, evaluation, you know, design evaluation, you know, evaluation at the highest level? Then what PO is CLO number 1 addressing? You state it. CLO number 2 is addressing PO 2. CLO number 3 is addressing PO 4. This is just an example. And then the means by which you are evaluating these CLOs. In quiz number 1, you have planned that you are going to address CLO number 1. In 1 hour test, the first 1 hour test, OHT, number 1, you have planned to address CLO 1. Also in the end of semester exam, ESE, end of semester exam, you have planned to address CLO 1, or you actually address CLO 1. This is actually prepared in hindsight after you have finished teaching the course. You know, you are reporting now that you address CLO 1 in quiz 1, in the first 1 hour test, and in end of semester exam. So you will now see the input that we go into another table later to evaluate how a particular student has attained this CLO 1, you know. CLO 2, which addresses PO2, you will address it in quiz 2. You ask questions to evaluate it in quiz 2. You will ask questions to evaluate this CLO2 in 1 hour test number 2, and also in the end of semester examination. CLO number 3, you will address it through a mini project that you are going to give in that course, and you also evaluate it in end of semester examination. So this is an example of CLO assessment sheet that should be inside your course file for that particular course. The next slide is CLO/PO/ level of learning table. So again, you list your CLOs, CLO1, CLO2, CLO3. Maybe CLO1 addresses PO1, CLO2 addresses PO program outcome 5, CLO3 addresses program outcome 4, and the level of learning in Bloom's taxonomy. C1 is just at the level of remembering. Can you state the first law of thermodynamics? You know, you can remember and you can state it, you know. Maybe your CLO is formulated at that level, you know. That's the most elementary level. Then C2 is understanding. C3 is apply. You can apply the, I'm not sure they are hearing me. This thing has.
I'm hearing you, sir.
Please, who is connected? Okay, can I continue? Thank you.
I'm hearing you.
So the POs that are addressed are listed there in that column, and the level of learning. It is expected that at lower level courses, you can operate at the lower levels of Bloom's taxonomy, but don't restrict yourself only to Bloom's taxonomy. For example, when I taught fundamental of thermodynamics to 200 level, I taught the students to be able to apply the laws of thermodynamics, to be able to evaluate so-called inventions, whether an invention is perpetual motion machine of the first kind or perpetual motion machine of the second kind, which if you classify an invention as ppm 1, ppm 2, it means it is impossible. And if somebody is applying for patent with for such an invention, it should be turned down, because you already know from law of thermodynamics that perpetual motion machine of the first kind is not possible. Perpetual motion machine of the second kind is not possible, according to the first and second law of thermodynamics. Even at 200 level, you can train students to master fundamental of thermodynamics and apply the laws of thermodynamics to be able to evaluate so-called design or invention. So while you may operate at lower levels of taxonomy at Bloom's taxonomy at 200 level, please don't stay there exclusively. If possible, see how a few of your CLOs can operate at higher level of Bloom's taxonomy. So that is what is being evaluated here, to be sure that you are not staying just at the lowest levels of Bloom's taxonomy. Then example of weekly teaching plan, next slide. Example of weekly teaching plan is shown there. You have maybe week 1 to 18 or week 1 to 17. Actually, semester is 15 weeks of lecture, 2 weeks of exam. So the topics you will teach each week is there. The mode of delivery is stated. The learning outcomes for that week, you may state it, the learning outcome related to that particular topic. Like I said, NUC has already helped us to be able to fill in this column. If you have done your CC Maths that NUC demanded, you'll be able to fill this learning outcome column. But we said the CLOs that we actually need for OBE, you will need to coalesce, join some together and have 3 to 5 CLOs. Then the delivery method is there, maybe lectures and film show, lecture and discussion, the number of hours you will spend to teach each topic, you have stated it. Fluid statics, if you have taught fundamentals of fluid mechanics, you will see that fluid statics is a very heavy course in that course. It's a very heavy topic, in that course. So you may need, it's not something you can teach in 1 hour. You will need several hours to cover all the topics in fluid statics. Incidentally, it is only at that 200 level you teach students all they need to know on fluid statics throughout their engineering training, whether they are in mechanical or civil, you cover all you need to do there. So the number of hours, then the contact hours, the hours of learning is virtually duplicating them. Then the assessment, the topics, will you assess it in the first 1 hour test? Will you assess that topic in end of semester examination? All that is stated. And if you have some remarks, you state it there. Then the last table we want to consider that should be in your course learning outcome is the table showing evaluation of each student, how they have attained each CLO and how they have attained each of these graduate attributes we are referring to as program outcomes. So you are giving, as a lecturer, you are giving an account for every student who took that course. So you must list all students, and we have shown 2 examples of listing students. Student number 1, 1830GD001. That's the matric number. And his name is Adeyemi Babangida Ifanyi. You know, you will give account for him. Then the last student in the class, number 50, the matric number is 1830GD050. His name is Meilafia Obiageli Abosede. You give account for this female student. So CLO1, which addresses the first program outcome at Bloom's taxonomy level 3, C3. You examine that CLO in quiz 1, which carry 10 marks. You examine that CLO also in 1 hour test. The 1 hour test carried overall mark of 30, but the CLO1 has 12 marks out of that 30, okay? And it was question number 3 in that 1 hour test where you are examining CLO1. Quiz 1, it was question number 1, in which maybe quiz 1 had only 1 question. So that's where you examine CLO1. I hope that column under CLO1 is clear. Then we go to CLO2. CLO2 is mapped to the second program outcome, PO2. And PO2 is at the level of Bloom's taxonomy C3. All right? And this CLO2 is examined in quiz 2 and 1 hour test 2. The mark for quiz 2 is 10 marks, maybe only 1 question, and it carries 10 marks. The 1 hour test, 30, all right? The 1 hour test 2 carry 30 marks, but only question number 3 addresses CLO2, and that one carried 9 marks, okay? Then CLO3 is mapped to program outcome 4. Here you are operating at a higher level of Bloom's taxonomy, C4. You gave a mini project which carries 10 marks. So only 1 question in that mini project. So you are assessing CLO2. And then in the end of semester examination, question number 4 is addressing CLO3. And that question carried 18 marks. So you can see that you can now fill in how many marks the student got in that quiz 1, question 1 out of 10. Maybe the student scored 6, you know. In the 1 hour test, out of 12 marks that addresses CLO1, maybe the student scored 8 out of 12. So you can actually add up the marks to know how well he's doing in CLO1. Out of the maximum he can score for CLO1, how many marks did he actually score? That is his level of attainment of CLO1. The same thing for CLO2, you add the component marks and divide by the maximum the student can score. The same thing for CLO3. So that will help you to fill in PO achievement. PO1, out of all the marks that are relevant to PO1, you can find the percentage that the student scored in PO1. You can find the percentage that the student scored in PO2. You can find the percentage that the student scored for PO3. So that this way, you are giving account for every student, how he's meeting the expectation for each CLO, more importantly, how he's meeting the expectation for each of the POs. And if you notice that a student is weak in the attainment of a particular PO, you will have to write a note to the HOD that the student is not doing well in attaining PO2. And then you and the HOD will put heads together. Which other courses has that PO2 addressed? Which other courses is that PO2 mapped to? You are going to keep an eye on that student to be sure that he does better next time he encounters PO2. But if you notice that a student is particularly doing badly in attaining a particular PO, then remedial action will have to be taken to help the student to be able to attain that PO. So again, that is a warning to us that we do not just flood our classes with an unregulated number of students. You have to give account for each student. And you will be like the parable of the Lord Jesus Christ that leaves the 99 sheep in a safe place, and you go to the wilderness to look for the lone sheep that is missing. You have to look for weak students that are not meeting some particular PO and tell us the remedial action you are putting in place to help the students to meet up with the standard expected of them. So this is the end of the presentation. Thank you for listening. I expect that there will be many questions. Please write your questions, send them in. I promise you, by the grace of God, we will address every question. Please, deans, remember to send in the names of your desk officers, OBE desk officers, so that we can create the WhatsApp platform that we'll be using to interact with ourselves and EAC, so that things can really move forward in the implementation of OBE. Thank you for your time. God bless you all. Okay. The registrar or the president, if anybody is available now, please address us if possible. Registrar and president of current. Registrar or president. MIS. Is the registrar or president available to address us? So I will now turn it over to the chairman of the subcommittee for training. You want us to end?
MIS, is the registrar now available?
Yes, the registrar is not.
Hello,
He
MIS.
was here for a few minutes.
Hello?
Hello?
Okay. If he's not available, okay, he is? Okay, it's online. Okay, I believe registrar is online. Can registrar please, yes, please unmute the registrar. MIS, please unmute registrar so that he can give us closing remarks. MIS is not talking. Maybe we can close it. All right. On behalf of Engineering Accreditation Council of Koren, we'd like to thank everybody for participating in this program. And like we have said, like we said the other time, this is going to be a continuous program. And from time to time, we'll be organizing more webinars so that we build capacity for our faculty staffs. And apart from that also, we are going to organize physical seminars so that people can be able to obtain higher capacity. Once again, thank you very much for participating and have a wonderful week ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Nuruddin Musa. Thank you, Professor Nuruddin Musa. Mr. Chairman, sir. Mr. Chairman, sir. Is anybody online? Is anybody online? MIS, what is happening?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Yes, some of us are online.
Some of us are.
We are online from West of Ibadan.
We're online.
Yes, we are online from the Faculty of Technology in West of Ibadan.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Can we kindly unmute ourselves just for a second? Thank you very much. I've been online for quite some time. Somehow the MIS would not allow me to speak or even share my video. I think the workshop has been very enlightening. I want to thank the organizers from the Engineering Accreditation Committee for deeming it fit for us to have this very enlightening workshop. I want to thank them for not being tired that we could not have enough people when we organized the same workshop on the 23rd of May. Those of us that could not join on the 23rd of May, we want to apologize that we could not accommodate everybody online at that time. We're very sorry, but subsequently, we will ensure that we cater for as many people as possible. So kindly accept our apology on that. We want to thank everyone that is online and that has contributed to this workshop. Like the chairman of the seminar series have just said, we will ensure that this is an occurring system or program, and when necessary, we will ensure that we'll do a physical meeting so that all of us will be able to share what we have. So on behalf of the president, staff and management of Koren, I want to thank all of you for your time and for being part of this workshop. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Registrar. Thank you for the comments.
Thank you.
Thank you, Registrar. We are very appreciative of your contribution and your support. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for participating in this. Thank you.
Thank you. We hope that you gain something. It's a continuous process. We'll keep moving on.
And others.
Thank you much for the program. It was well packaged. I wish to solicit that the slide.
Yeah, we share, that's right. Yeah, we share, that's right. That's now I got that. Yeah, I gotcha. You've given a very comprehensive report. That's good. They wanted you this week and this week, sir.
This is now. See you here, see you here. You know what to do. Is admin that muted everyone.